Hi, good morning, everyone. Pipat speaking. Today, I will make a very special program telling you about English. It is a very interesting message I'm gonna deliver today. I read many books. I read many books of many authors. What I'm gonna tell you today is so special and very, very important because it would change your mindset in studying English. It is a very invaluable message from the good teacher who are an experienced teacher in teaching more than 40 million students around the world. And what you're gonna hear from me is a very practical message you can adapt to your own. So you will see that whenever you change your mindset, you try to look around and go out your comfort zone, that you get stuck for many decades. I hope that what you're gonna hear today will help you a lot. Please listen deeply and think along and see what you can adapt to your children. In Thailand, we kept talking and mentioning English approach in teaching should have been changed, as I remember, over half century. We're gonna change from very old approach, conventional one of grammatical approach to brand new approach of communicative approach. That were the things education in Thailand and other relevant organization listen and never make it happen. In Thailand, educational system try to teach students to know English, but never use English. That is the key problems that we never ever solve. From now on, I will tell you about new dimension that you should listen deeply and think along. Just change your mindset and think of English. It's just something enjoyable, and have your happy heart, happy emotion whenever you start playing with English. Think of English as a sport. Whenever you think something, a sport, you never learn it, but play it. And whenever you are in play motive mode, you enjoy, you keep trying, acquiring this sport every time without any boring moment. Let's come and see. English is a physical sport. One of the greatest errors of the hidden curriculum is that schools teach English as an academic subject. In school, you study English, you learn about English, you analyze the parts of the language. For instance, grammar, vocabulary, etc. You take tests about this knowledge. The problem is English is not at all a subject to be studied. English is a skill to be performed or played. Speaking is something you do, not something you analyze and think about. Perhaps you can see the problem I'm gonna tell you. Real English conversations are very fast and they are unpredictable. The other person speaks quickly and you never know exactly what they will say. You must be able to listen, understand, and respond almost instantly. That's simple, because there is no time to think about grammar, translations, and or anything else you learn in English class. English conversation is more likely as playing soccer or football. A soccer player must act and react almost instantly. The player must play the game intuitively. Soccer players do not study physics formulas in order to play well. They learn by doing. They play soccer. They don't study it. Studying grammar rules to speak English is much like a soccer player studying physics to play soccer. It might be interesting, but it certainly won't help performance. Your job, therefore, is to stop studying English, start playing it. Remember that your fool is an important part, perhaps the most important part of your effortless English engine. Learning to play English rather than study it is a powerful way to develop strong psychology and go much faster on the road to a big word, fluency. When we first discussed fool, we learned how to use our body to change our emotions. It turned out the body is, in fact, a very important key to learning English. By using physical actions while learning is impossible not to learn faster, remember more, remember longer, and speak faster and better. Take, for instance, regarding to Dr. James Archer, a psychologist and professor emeritus in San Jose State University, found that using physical actions in language class actually helps students learn vocabulary better. Dr. Archer became curious about the link between language and movement after watching how young children learn to speak. He noticed that when parents said something, their children typically would respond with a word and some sort of action. He also noticed that parents frequently use actions, gestures, while speaking to their babies. Based on his research and observations, Archer developed the total physical response system of language teaching, in which students respond to teacher commands in the new language with whole body actions. These actions strengthen the meaning of the phrase and make it easier to remember. Dr. Archer believes that students can learn 12 to 36 words in an hour using this method. I had a similar success using a version of it in my lesson. Of course, this is a complete opposite of what happened in most English classes. In school, you are told to sit still in your chair. You sit for an hour or more. Naturally, the longer you sit, the more your energy drops. As your energy drops, your concentration drops. And as your concentration drops, you learn less and forget more. Of course, the lower energy frequently leads to feeling of boredom. Less movement, less energy, lower concentration, and boredom naturally produce worse results. No matter what the method is. And so we have another downward spiral. While everyone benefits from physical learning, some people absolutely need it. These people are called kinesthetic learners. They learn best when they connect learning to physical movement. This kind of learner tends to struggle in traditional classrooms where they are required to sit motionless for hours. Schools and teachers often label these people as being learning disabled or as having attention deficit disorder. The problem, however, is not that kinesthetics learners are disabled. Rather, the problem is a teaching disability, the failure of schools to teach active learners in an effective way. So that is what I mentioned. And I love to tell you more in depth about how to be a good English learner, how to be a very active learner in English communication. I read a lot of books relevant to English teaching and learning. I listened to hundreds of YouTube giving advice in various styles from native speakers from America, from Britain, Australia. There are many different ideas because each teacher has their own experience. But when you listen to many techniques, you can simply notice that language is not complicated things, but there are many things in common. I watched TED Talk program giving idea, trick in teaching English or other language as a second language. Mostly of speaker mention a common word that is natural way. You're supposed to learn any language, second language, by adapting the way you learn your first language, mother tongue. You have to keep exercising whenever you read, you learn. You cannot stay still and just read and take too much serious in writing down tons of vocabularies. That is useless. And you never, ever memorize tons of words by trying very hard to memorize, repeat, memorize the words every day. You're wasting your time. My recommendation, you should read quite a lot of book. Repeat your favorite book, your favorite articles. Listen very often your favorite program, film, movie, documentary, whatever make you happy. And whenever you're happy, you are doing things in play motive. You never get bored. You feel happy, high, energetic emotion that will make you very active in exploring more and more without time limitation. So what I'm gonna tell you is about action vocabulary. What is the vocabulary? So many people, so many students waste their time trying to memorize English vocabulary. They study long list of words. They repeat the list many times, probably hundreds times, thousand times, trying to memorize the English words and their translated meanings. Unfortunately, research showed that 80% of vocabulary learned in this way is forgotten in less than a year. That's a lot of waste time and effort. There's another problem with this vocabulary learning method. It's boring. Surely it's boring. It's quite boring. I guess I assume everyone face the same problem when you are studying English in your school. It's boring. It kills long-term motivation. As a student, you must be very careful. Killing your motivation is the worst things you can do. Learning English is a marathon. It's a marathon. It's a long run. It requires high level of motivation that are sustained for many years. Using boring vocabulary learning methods, therefore, is doubly bad. It is inefficient and it weakens motivation. We can reduce your motivation. There is a better way. If you have to think again how to break through these big barriers you found out all the time, it's possible to learn new vocabulary in a brand new way that is far more powerful and is a lot of fun. Whenever you learn in this way, studies show that you can remember 80% 1 year later. It's powerful, is it? The key to deep, powerful, long-term vocabulary learning is movement. Like you are playing something, you move all the times your body. That is a physical movement. Learning English is exactly the same. When you combine strong physical movements with understandable new vocabulary, you create something deep connections in your brain and your body. These connections are long-term. It's time-taking process. Remember, learning English is nothing complicated, but it needs discipline. And you have to be aware of English learning as a long-term process. You cannot complete everything within a day, a month, a year, but lifetime. Yeah, that is most important. If you think of learning English is time-taking, from now on to end of your life, you will feel more relaxed. You create deep connection in your brain and the body. These connections are long-term. I repeat it. The key is to use a movement that reminds you of the meaning of the vocabulary. For example, imagine you want to learn the phrase to proclaim. First, you would find the meaning of the word, what the proclaim is, which is to say or announce publicly. That is meaning when you consult dictionary. Often in a loud way, like shouting to the public, say, announce, whatever I like. After you know the meanings, you create an action like I'm doing now that remind you of it. To proclaim, to say, announce publicly, often in a loud way. You move your body while memorize the new word. To proclaim is better, it's faster, it's longer to memorize these new words. After you know the meaning, you create an action that reminds you of this word. You might put your hand to your mouth and pretend you are yelling loudly to say publicly and loudly. Finally, you would shout the phrase to proclaim, as you did the gesture. The gesture is body movement at the same time. The more loudly you shout and the more energetically you do the gesture, the stronger connection you make in your brain with your body. By simply shouting the phrase and doing the movement vigorously several times, you will create a stronger and deeper memory of the meaning. A.J. Hawker said in his recent seminar he did in Vietnam, he taught a number of new words using this action vocabulary method. The students shouted the new words with him while simultaneously using the strong actions he showed them. Each action was connected to the meaning of the new words or phrases. By the end of the lesson, the student knew those words completely, never to forget them. But that's not all. Since effortless English is a deep learning system, A.J. Hawk repeated those new words again. But in a story lesson, each time he used one of the new words in the story, he asked Vietnamese students to use the same strong gesture while they were practicing. So the mini story lesson, the students got even more repetition of the vocabulary with emotion and strong actions. And later on, at the end, A.J. Hawk, he gave the Vietnamese students homework. Download the audio, the same story lesson, and listen to that audio every single day for 1 week. Expecting that if Vietnamese students who join the seminar do this, they will learn these new vocabulary words with very deeply in their memory. And they will remember all the words forever. Forever. This is the power of the afforded English system. That is the power of using physical movement while learning. That is thing I would like to tell you. And if you listen deeply and you cannot understand every word, I recommend to go back and start from beginning and listen, sing along. And if you feel that what you have been doing for long times, from 10 years, a decade, 2 decades, and it never worked, please listen and try to start playing with your English instead of studying in a boring atmosphere in the classroom, because you can learn English, practice English as something, a game, sports. And please be advised that if you agree with what I just told you, you should decide decide to study English for this time from now on to end of your life, lifelong learning. If not, no meaning to start learning English in the same old way of studying your experience for almost of your life. You're gonna waste your time. Look for the other activities you can play with it, because skill need practicing with well-disciplined mindset. And if you don't believe, don't waste your time also. But what I'm telling you is from my reading, from my hands-on experience. It works. If you agree upon to the whole message I deliver to you today, start right now. Take prompt action. And within few months, you will see the difference, obviously, significantly. See you next time. Pipat from Thailand. สวัสดีครับ